was an interesting experience. I do think it helped, actually, because there were some books that I read the first chapter and I didn't want to pull myself away from, and there were other books that I was trying to find where the chapter ended. So obviously those are not the ones I'm going to read right now, but I will talk about each of them in turn. The first book I picked up was In a Dark, Dark Woods by Ruth Ware. This is a horror book. We all know how I like horror. It actually had the shortest first chapter out of all of them, which is one of the reasons why I think I wanted to keep reading this. But I also think that it was just a really well-written first chapter. It drew you into the story without being over exposition-y. So there's this mystery element where you want to keep reading because you want to know what she's talking about. It sort of drops you in the middle of the story. We're dropped in with a female character running. She tells you that she's running for one reason only, and it's a man's name. She's trying to get to the road, and there's a car coming, and we can basically assume she gets hit by the car and wakes up in the hospital. And we would like to know what happens from there. So I might actually pick this one up soon. I don't know if it's the first one I'm going to read, though, because it was not the one that I wanted to read the most out of all of these. Next, I picked up Perdido Street Station by China Miéville. And this is a science fiction book. But the beginning of it read a lot like a Victorian novel, not in the writing style, but like the setting and how it works. So I'm interested to see how that plays out, if it will have sort of the plot lines of a Victorian novel, or if it simply is sort of trying to be a Victorian novel in a science fiction setting, which could be very interesting. I did enjoy the first chapter of this. There were aliens, which usually I don't like, but it was sort of a sweet thing. I think that there could be a lot of things said in this about modern society and interracial love and taboos. At least based on the first chapter, where we have a man who is an academic and a woman who is an artist, and the woman is an alien, and the man would be shunned for loving her if it got out, whereas in her world it doesn't really affect her, so she wants to be in a relationship, like a legit relationship, and have everybody know, whereas for him, he's terrified that that will oust him from his community and will make it impossible for him to do his work. So that could be an interesting thing. I have been in a science fiction-y mood, so this might definitely be something that I want to pick up. It is huge, though, and I don't know if the first thing I want to do is, like, commit myself to something this long. We'll see. Next, I started Cloud Atlas, and oh my gosh, I have wanted to do this forever. This is probably the one that I'm going to read. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. Although I did like one other one a little bit more than this, I do think that because I have been wanting to read this for actual months, and I've just been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read this. Whether I read it all in one sitting, or if I just say, you know, this week, this is what's being read, it's happening, I'm going to do it. I have read the first chapter of this before, and I did remember it. It is a weird book, and having heard people discuss it, I feel like the first story is the weakest story for most people. It's not the one that draws people in the most, so maybe a first chapter tag isn't the best thing for it, but I do know that I find the structure interesting, and that some of the plots of the other stories within here, of these interweaving tales of time and space, are things that I want to read. So I need to get through the first story to get to those, and I think I can do it. I can do it. I have the time. I have the ability. It will happen. Next, I picked up The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. Junot Diaz is one of my favorite professor's favorite authors. He actually got to sit down at a bar with him and like drink and chat, and I'm super jealous. I have never read any Junot Diaz, but having had this person that I greatly respect and find incredibly smart boost this author as his favorite, literally his favorite. It makes me want to read this all the more. This is definitely one that I'm going to pick up soon. Even from the first couple of bits, it's got a mystery element, it's about nerds, it's about video games, things that I care about, and I'm actually surprised that it took me this long to pick it up in general. It's been on my shelf for a while, and I just pick other things. So when I was thinking of books to pick for this, I wanted some that I was excited about, I wanted some that were new, I wanted some that I had been holding on for forever, and this was one that I've had for forever and just didn't read. So it has moved its way up my TBR now because of that first chapter. So definitely a good one. If you haven't heard of it, it won the Pulitzer Prize. It's about from what I can tell, it's about Fuku, or bad spirits, based on Santo Domingo lore. And it's about a mixed race person and his experiences in modern America, having this supernatural curse over him in a way. Finally, I picked up The Roundhouse by Louise Ardrich, and this is a National Book Award. It is the book for my Pop Sugar Reading Challenge I picked to read for the National Book Award. The reason I picked this one is because it is about Native Americans, and the issues surrounding Native Americans in America is completely covered up here. The general populace has no idea what it's like to be a Native American in the modern day. We sort of stopped learning about Native Americans after Thomas Jefferson era, Trail of Tears era, and it's basically like, we know they have casinos and that everybody who's part of the tribe gets a cut from the casinos because they're allowed to do that because they are basically treated like a foreign nation, so they can make their own laws and gambling is allowed. But we don't talk about how they are at the same time treated as like sub-citizens of the United States. how there are so many weird like laws surrounding their identity and the legality that there is in that, and how terrible their living conditions are in a lot of ways because of how much they were forced out when... Hey guys, Editing Michaela here. So I went on a really long rant about how terrible it is to be a Native American in America, and you didn't need to hear that in this video. I might talk about it more if I do a review of The Roundhouse. I'm editing this now, so I'm going to give you the end of this video because I went on a rant so long my camera stopped recording. Smart. Good vlogger. Definitely a good vlogger. So, what did I think of all of that? I think I'm going to be reading Cloud Atlas first because I wanted to for so long. After that I might read In a Dark, Dark Woods or The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. Those are kind of on par with each other. Then maybe The Roundhouse, and then Perdido Street Station. Yep, that's where we're at. So I will talk to you guys soon. I might read a graphic novel and do a review of that for you for Wednesday, but I don't know. We shall see. We shall see what happens. Everything is in flux right now. I might do all of the things. I might do none of the things. Who knows?